Exactly. Hello, friends. This is my dog Bryson, and I'm Sarah Steiger with Steiger Vitelli and Associates, and I'm with Elodie Lee today, and we're talking about rituals in fundraising, specifically this time of year that we like to think about as the receiving time of year. So we do these little free kind of chats or blogs or resources so that folks in the community get to have just a little something that hopefully they can use and know that you're being thought about in our circles. And so that's what this is, a little gift. So you can practice your receiving with this little short video, which I hope feels like a gift. I'm glad that Elodie could join today so that we can talk about this ritual of receiving that she and I have practiced for, I think, a decade. But I'll let you say what you think about that.
Yeah, I'm Elodie Lee. I use she, her pronouns, and I have been working in fundraising for about a decade because Sarah Steiger let me be an intern when I was making a career shift. I applied and I was hired. And
candidate.
I was holding my own power in my application. But all to say that I worked with Sarah as well as in really small shops where I've been the only fundraiser, and bigger shops where I've been one of many. And I'm really excited about kind of thinking through the seasons of giving and gratitude, and then also how the fundraising sector can and could hold the different flow of what we've learned from seasons as well, and the rituals that help us kind of bring that into the work.
Yes. So we prepared sort of 2 questions to guide our chat. We're just going to kind of chat back and forth with each other on this topic of the ritual of receiving. And just starting right with the receiving part, I'll just pose the question to you, Elodie, so folks listening kind of know what we're talking about here. But what does shifting into receiving, as we've said to each other over the years, mean for you, and how does it show up in your work and in your life?
For a lot of the years, it's been like, especially recently, I've been thinking about like harvest before hibernation, and really trying to think about the fall fundraising season is so much about like, am I on their mind? Do they know how to give? Like, do the donors know what we're doing in order to like align their passions and interests and capacity so we can move their dollars, right? And being really proactive in those solicitations and those invitations to give. But there needs to be a point in which we are collecting, but not with like like a clipboard in the same way. But collecting, being available to really kind of practice the abundance that we're selling. And shifting into receiving has been about like really kind of putting a pause to our active solicitations, giving people time and generous space, as well as ourselves time and generous space to respond. It's the like silence before, like after you make the ask, when you're in a one-to-one meeting, it's that silence before speaking again, really lets the donor respond. But in my own practice and work, that's meant making sure that there's a time at which I'm not like explicitly asking, and I can really shift into a gratitude practice and hold space and time in my own calendar so that I can do that abundantly and not kind of white knuckle my way into the very end of the calendar year, because it doesn't feel good to enter into an organization or a movement or sharing your generosity where somebody's like, yeah, thanks, bye. We really want to invite folks in and say, and have the space and the head space in our own fundraising practice to say like, wow, I recognize what you did there. I recognize it along the spectrum of the need. I recognize it and want to connect you with what's next, and to just really play the long game with them. And part of that is like doing that in our own bodies first.
I love that. I love the catchphrase, practicing the abundance that we're selling.
Yeah.
Yes. So true. And it takes like so much practice, actually. Right? Like, do you think that, like, do you practice it in your own life outside of work?
I do need accountabilities for this. Cause it's not nothing like all of this learning is never I've arrived and it's done for. It's
Right.
like, I know this, I'm going for this, and I need to like be held to this, for myself and for my community too.
Gotta let the dog. Excuse me.
Dog time.
He's scratching on the door.
But I think for me, it really is like looking at the last 2 weeks of the year and like holding a lot of flexible space and not cramming that time of year in as like big solicitations, and practicing it in my own life looks like my I learned from my partner. He was teaching high school out of our house for a lot of time in the pandemic.
Yeah.
And he teaches special ed, and there's so many like good rituals and order that helps people maintain a sense of themselves. And for him, he would like change the color of his lights when work was done. like he had like a light bulb that was like white, and then when work was done, he would make it purple. And so the room felt really different.
I love that.
Or like things like when I've had to be on Zoom in my social life as well as in my professional life. And when I do that, I try and like light a candle or like make something different about the space. And so small rituals, or like I've also tried to hold time on my calendar that for like internal meetings are only certain days a week. So I've got like the space and the headspace to really be abundant. And in my personal life, that's also like making time to cook, making time to sleep, making time to connect socially, and also making time to just be that are just for myself, so I can have my head on straight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the mask on first. Mm-hmm. Mask on yourself. What is that saying?
For flight.
Haven't been on an airplane in a while.
Your own oxygen before you help.
Yes.
We.
Yes. So I love that you're talking about the other rituals. I want to go there too a little bit deeper. But one of the things I was thinking might be helpful to people who are watching is like some of the practical ways you and I over the years have actually done that shift at work, either together or when we weren't working for the same place. And I was thinking of one to get us started, which is that we're done with our asks. Like we plan our asks up to, like you said, those last 2 weeks of the year. And we're a lot of times, like even before the pandemic, there was some shift into working from home during those times, so that we were just physically changed. Like you said, like it's the purple light version of pre-COVID, moving away from a space and into a different space. The other thing it was about that I'll throw in, and I'm curious what you would add, is over the years in my work, it was like I shifted my attention from the stuff I was doing, which was my job, so to focus on that, and then to the stuff that other team members were doing on the team that were in charge of acknowledgements and data entry. This time of the year, for folks that are primarily in charge of that stuff, is not really a relaxing time of year when things are going well, right? So
it's the gift of that cat that's like, pop, pop, pop.
Yes, it's certainly receiving, but it's not relaxing. So then it was just nice for me to like get out of my own head and be like, what does person A need right now? And that helped me, that person that's entering those gifts, and maybe that's you, so that it's like, what do I need to just get through this period, and be okay at the end of it, because we're all going to need each other at the beginning of the new year. So yeah, do you have any little memories of things you've done over the years, in practice at work?
Yeah, I think that's when being like, I'm going to do a lot of handwritten cards at the end of the year when it's just physically slower. like I
Yeah.
physically need to slow down to have legible handwriting, and and making myself available to the folks that are entering gifts, because I'm having conversations with people that don't really translate well to the database.
Yeah.
Being like, okay, that intention is probably anchored here. I'll clarify with them. Um, but I think the rituals are important too, because I've said this with my therapist too, that hello, millennial seeks therapy regularly. Shout out to therapists right now. But I was like, okay, if I'm grieving, philosophically, I know I'm supposed to be doing this, but what do I do with my hands?
Yeah.
Like, what is my behavior so that I'm not just being like, yep, this is the space for this feeling or this. It's always been like, what do I do with my hands? So I think it's physically putting yourself in a place where you can, if you've got the luxury and the privilege to physically try and do something different that can rewire the space that you're in. Whether that's like even like making sure that your desk is like near a window, or like that you've got some view of like nature and snow falling maybe, or that you've got like playing music. I don't play a lot of music while I work, because I am a distracted little squirrel sometimes, but in an act of receiving, I need to like slow down, and it is about creating a different environment. I recently got Ricardo Levins Morales has like a organizing zine, and a takeaway that I've been thinking a lot about recently, and it's about like making sure that your organizing is culturally relevant. But there's so much about, it doesn't always matter the seeds that you're planting, but the soil and the environment that those seeds are in. So your ask can be one thing, your solicitation and those big gifts are one thing, but how are we practicing tending the soil around it and making sure that somebody can like have a place to grow from, as well as ourselves.
Yes, I love that. And I'm glad you brought Ricardo Levins Morales into the space.
I'm really happy to do that anytime. I've learned a lot.
Maybe we can share the link to the beautiful seasonal art too that you and I have been loving on. What you just said makes me think of the CCF, the community centric fundraising principles that we're both consuming heavily these days, and trying to find ways to implement. Like it's so important. If you're going to ask people, this is a couple different principles, or a couple different ways I see the principles in action kind of coming together. But if you're going to ask people, when you're asking like for big shit, like to step up, to change the way they think, and to make a big gift, and to maybe advocate or whatever, that ground has to be like pretty healthy to support that kind of growth. So I think all the more reason, and it's not easy to do, but all the more reason to create that space, and to keep the metaphor going, like do that composting.
Yeah.
To
really be the environment that can help all of these things grow.
Yeah. For people at any giving level. Disclosure, Elodie and I have spent a lot of time in our professional careers doing individual giving and major gifts specifically, but we've both done lots of different types of fundraising work. But some of our perspective will be a little bit tied to some of those individual relationships where we're kind of moving people towards like their next their next step towards justice, their next big gift, their next redistribution. Just in our last like minute or two here, I love you mentioned a couple other rituals like of you know, the handwriting is so real. Like you really do have to slow down in a way that's so different than writing an email or even picking up the phone. So it's just a great part of the ritual of receiving. Anything else, any other little rituals you'd throw in that you lean on that have meaning for you to sort of send our buddies out with some more tips?
One I'm trying to practice is like getting out of my own space and into nature, because nature is doing the seasonal work.
Doing it every year.
That it's like it makes transitions. Nature is reliable in its change. So I think nature really slows me down and makes me think about a longer vision too. And so when I'm caught up in the minute to minute, just taking a moment, I think before this call, we were talking about like, I could putter forever.
Oh my gosh, yes.
For the love of puttering, for the love of like just spending a minute to look outside or just spending a minute to be outside, it's something that I'm trying to not like over prepare for, if that makes sense. And just being like, maybe you don't have all the gear, but just like get out there and notice and take it all in.
Yeah. Yeah, so real. We were talking before we hit record on like just being able to look out the window, like notice and do nothing else. But then I loved how you framed like, but what do I do with my hands? I feel that so deeply. Like I gotta I'm not to the elevated point where I can do nothing yet with my hands. I'm working on it, but
yeah.
I was saying like I'll pull a drawer out and just sit there and like reorganize it or get my desk set up or whatever. And I'll just name, like, both Elodie and I have supervised others and been in leadership positions in our organizations. And I mean, I really think it's important that your leadership at your organization understands how important and how enriching and how fertile it makes the future to give staff and each other and colleagues even that space to just like look out the window and organize the drawer or sit down and like watch, I don't know, shout out to BBC Slow TV. You can just watch a sleigh ride for like 2 hours and write some holiday cards. Like it doesn't maybe seem like. I
watched a ham roast.
A ham roast?
It's on Netflix. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the ham roasting is the new Yule log.
I was like, oh, we are seeing some drips of fat. See?
Yeah. But that's so important. So if you're somebody watching this who has that element of power, you know, to create that space, like go get it for your team. People need it. They'll be better for it. Your fundraising will be better for it. The world will be better for it. And, you know, there's, I guess, in maybe my little closing 2 cents is that try to notice if other people don't have that same opportunity this time of year. Like we mentioned, those of us doing gift entry and keyboard and catting this time of year. Because you can show up for them in a really cool way that still shifts into receiving. So
and let's make space for them after the new year too.
Yeah,
I got it now.
Yeah, pass that this way. Yes, for sure. Any final thoughts? Thank you so much for doing this.
No, this was really fun. I like thinking through the seasons, and I like that fundraising really does apply to them, whether or not we want to be tied to the tax deadlines.
Right.
We have an opportunity to like think through our higher selves, do something different with our hands, and create a space of generosity and abundance for people, for ourselves as well. For ourselves first, and then and then we create that for other folks.
I love it. Thank you, Elodie. Your brilliance is always deeply touching and inspiring to me, and I'll probably be better today just because I have this conversation with you. So thank you. We'll see folks later. check out our resources page every once in a while for stuff like this, and we'll pop it out to LinkedIn and you can share it around. And right now we are offering through the end of the year, if anybody needs like a little help to create that kind of space, Laura, my partner, and I, Laura Vitelli, are offering 90 minutes of free support. So if you've got that thing that you're like, I just cannot get this done, whether it's checking an appeal or, doing a quick review of a grant that you just can't get to or something like that, give us a call. We'd love to help you out. It's free. It's just a way to get to know us, and we want to help support folks in the community to make sure they actually can have some space. So that's our little tiny piece we can offer. So all of our info is on the website at steigervitelli.com. Thanks again, Elodie.
Thank you so much.